On this episode of the Open in Indiana podcast, we meet a legal nurse consultant here in Indiana. Don't miss it. Welcome, everyone, to the Open in Indiana podcast, where we feature the people, places, and events that make Indiana a great place to live, work, and visit. Today, our guest is Tina Baxter, owner of Baxter Professional Services. Tina, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Tina, thank you for joining us. So we had a few moments before today's podcast to talk a little bit about what you do, because I'd never heard of a legal nurse consultant before. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about what a legal nurse consultant is?
Well, as a legal nurse consultant, I work with attorneys and insurance adjusters on medical malpractice cases and product liability cases. So, for instance, if you had a slip or a fall in a facility like a nursing home or a hospital, and you were injured, then that may go to, if you sue, that may go to a lawsuit, and so then the attorney may want me to review the medical record to kind of explain what's in the medical record, because obviously they're great attorneys, but not all of them are in the medical field. So they need somebody to help them bridge that gap. And so that's what I do, is I help bridge that gap and helping them to understand what's all in the medical records and if there were any breaches in the standard of care.
And so, Tina, you're a licensed nurse, correct?
Yes, I am a registered nurse and an advanced practice nurse. So I'm a nurse practitioner, and my specialties are gerontology, and my subspecialty is mental health and addictions.
And so, how did you get started in the legal consulting world from being a nurse to uh, focusing your professional career on the legal side?
Well, it started out, I got a request to sit on a medical review panel a few years ago, and to look at a case and to render an expert opinion. And then during that same time, I also got a call from another attorney asking me for a deposition on a case. And then I realized when they asked me for a fee schedule, I'd better come up with something quickly. And so that's kind of how my career got started as a legal nurse consultant. And it's going on since then.
And so, Tina, what is something that you wish you knew when you were just getting started in business?
I think what I really wish I knew was to make sure that you have everything started together. Like, for example, um, when we first started in the business, we had a very small space, and it was difficult for us to maneuver in that space. So now we have a much bigger space. But what I learned from that experience was that, having had another business previously, was to keep our overhead low. And so we strategically, when we started the legal nurse consulting business, did that, of learning of what was necessary and what was nice to have. So what was necessary was having a phone, a computer, and internet. What was nice to have was a big pretty office. Right? And so, when you're first an entrepreneur, you always want to have a big, nice space. And then you realize that maybe that's not all, that's where you need to put your focus on. So, for us, it was that slow growth, I think, that really benefited us in this business.
And so, Tina, you're also helping other nurses become legal consultants as well, correct?
Yes, yes. I'm in a lot of different nurse entrepreneur Facebook groups, and a lot of them ask questions about becoming a legal nurse consultant. So I've actually put together a course to address that very issue.
And so, would you like to share a little bit about your upcoming course?
Yeah, so we have a course that's online. It's on Zoom, so you don't actually have to drive anywhere. You can get the tickets available on Eventbrite. It's for about a couple hours or so, and we're going to talk about the basics of how to get started as a legal nurse consultant, because there's a lot of questions about, should I take a certificate class? Should I go for certification? Whose certification should I look for? What How do I contact an attorney? What do I do to get my name out there? So all those basic questions will help them to determine what's the best path for them to go into the field.
And so, what date is that class coming up?
That's going to be on December 30th.
And so there are still spots available for anyone who would like to register, correct?
Yes, there are still spots available for those who would like to register. I will say that the seating is limited. We are doing a Zoom. But because I would like to have a more intimate setting, I'm trying to keep the number of participants down. So I don't want like 1,000 people, because how am I going to talk to 1,000 people? And so if you do sign up for the course, and you mentioned that you heard this on this podcast, I'm also going to give you an additional 1 hour coaching session for free.
Awesome. And Tina, how can our viewers get in touch with you if they'd like to claim that offer or if they'd like to learn more in general?
They can always reach us on our website, which is baxterprofessionalservices.com, or you may give us a call at 765-387-8046. Again, that's 765-387-8046.
Awesome. Well, Tina, thank you so much for being our guest today. And to everyone watching and listening, thank you for catching this episode of the Open in Indiana podcast. Catch our next episode soon. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Open in Indiana podcast. If you enjoyed listening, subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Music, iHeartRadio, or on our website, openindiana.com/OII podcast. Thanks for listening.